Welcome back, Trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As a Trailheads ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome to Season 12 of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and each week we're hitting the trail through conversations with extraordinary hikers from across the United States and beyond. Fall is one of those magical times to be outdoors. The air is crisp, the trails are lined with golden leaves, and every step feels like an invitation to slow down and soak in the season. This year, I've had the privilege of sitting down with hikers who bring the same richness to their stories. From through hikers reflecting on lessons learned to everyday adventurers chasing larch season and finding peace on quiet trails, their voices remind us that the outdoors isn't just about reaching summits. It's about connection, reflection, and discovery. So lace up your boots, grab your favorite warm drink for the trail, and get ready. Season 12 is here, and the conversations ahead are as colorful as the fall landscapes we love. In this week's episode, we're joined by Grant for his return to the podcast, and for the first time ever, his dad John steps up to the mic. Recorded in person at a lookout over a freshly snow-covered Washington Pass near North Cascades National Park, this heartfelt conversation explores what becomes possible when a shared love for the outdoors turns into a 13-year legacy of adventure. Grant and John take us back to where it started, in the Sierra Nevada, sharing the funny moments, near mishaps, and breathtaking peaks that have shaped their annual father-son road trips across the country. We talk about everything from changing roles on trail to learning from wild weather, celebrating small wins, cowboy hats, and how hiking together has strengthened their relationship throughout every season of life. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guests, Grant and John. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I am here with Grant, a returning guest, and John, his dad. We've met a few times. Last year, we met at Mount Rainier National Park, and right now they are crossing off North Cascades National Park, and we are overlooking Washington Pass, which is right behind us. Really excited to talk to you guys and have you guys on the podcast. Grant, we've had you a few times. We had you on the Humphreys Peak episode. John, this is your first time on the podcast, so we always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Sure. Right around the time I got my driver's license, I started making trips to the Sierras with my cousin Glenn and my two younger brothers. So we just started a backpacking thing right around 16, and we'd go to, Mineral King, and we'd go to Sequoia, and then eventually we made it over to Yosemite. So we had a lot of California experience hiking, and then fast forward, got married when I was 30. Wife and I had triplets, Grant being the youngest. No, the oldest. He was the first out of the chute. But I knew that I wanted to turn my kids on to nature. And, what a better family experience than taking them to places where there's hiking. So Grant got started at kind of a young age. We go to local mountains and get a cabin for a week and just kind of hang out. But it kind of blossomed into road trips to national parks right around the time Grant was a senior in high school, I think. And it started with Yosemite. And it just kind of evolved. The first few years, we went to Sedona. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. And right around the next year, which was kind of a triad, 2015, we went to Zion, Bryce, and Grand Canyon North Rim. And by then, our trips had kind of taken on a new life, meaning they were kind of more structured, more organized with some amazing hikes. And it just occurred to me like, oh my God, I'm going to be hiking with this guy till I'm 90.
You've been 80 before.
Yeah, well,
you got the 10 years?
I'm getting greedy now, So that's kind of my first awareness, like, oh, Grant has inspired me. I was taking all the credit for turning him on to nature, and now I get my payback from him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started.
And where does this fall as far as the number of times you guys have visited national parks?
13 years. Yeah, 13 years in the last 15 years. So, once a year we go for about a week and we just randomly pick national parks. And of course, Cascades was on our radar, but so understated, so this is our first year to Cascades.
Yeah. And I know you guys have only gotten here yesterday. What do you think? Initial impressions?
Just underrated. I mean, it's just shocking. This is the top 5 national park. And I've been to a few. I've been to Glacier, I've been to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons, Zion, Yosemite, Rainier, and this is right up there. Now, it's early in the trip, but so far, this is like top 5 easily.
And Grant, the same to you. Like, what do you think? Initial impressions of North Cascades?
Yeah, this is new territory for us because we've always done hikes in like July, August, around Labor Day weekend. This is our first time that we've hiked in the fall, and the fact that it's the first snowfall of the season is pretty special. I think that's a good omen because you look around us and it's all beauty. The larches are still out. So it's been a great start, and we're just beginning. So we're excited to continue the Galavant around the North Cascades.
And for audio listeners, if you don't know, we are sitting on Washington Pass, and literally it's a winter wonderland right now all around us.
With rock spires that are just dramatic. It's amazing.
Grant, you've been busy this summer since the last time I saw you in June. Catch us up with what you've been up to as far as like your outdoor hiking Galavants since June.
Yeah, so I've been gallivanting around locally in San Diego County. So for those of you that don't know Mount Laguna, it's an hour east of downtown San Diego, and there's a lot of hikes within the Cleveland National Forest. There's a lot of hikes along the Pacific Crest Trail, and I've just been familiarizing myself with the land, becoming one with the land, and it's nice that there are mountains so close to the beach. And where I live, you can do a SoCal Challenge, which for those of you that don't know, you can go gallivant to the beach, mountains, and desert all within one day. And so I did that challenge a couple weeks ago with Britt, Wonders with Britt, another talented content creator, and that was awesome to see such a contrast of environments all within one day.
Yeah, that was quite the trip you guys did in one day.
Yeah.
And how many times have you done that SoCal Challenge?
Twice. Yeah, only twice. So the first time was in 2017. I was still in school, and I had a couple buddies from college that we went and did that, and then we camped at Lake Cuyamaca. And then the other time was 3 weeks ago. Britt got a chance to explore the tiny house block, which is where I'm at. It's a neighborhood of a bunch of different tiny houses. So you can stay there. You can live there for 6 to 12 months. You can buy a plot of land up there. There's a lot of different things you can do in that neighborhood. But for me, I just love having hiking trails so close to my door. And so turning her on to the ocean for someone who's from Arizona, it was quite the treat to see her radiate with joy at seeing that.
And, you guys have said this is the 12th year that you've done it out of 15 years. 13th year doing it out of 15 years. Did it start off as a one-time thing, or
I'll go with Pops on this one.
was it like a planned thing where you're like, this is going to be an annual tradition?
It evolved. It started out as just like, oh, let's go to a national park. And you learn, obviously every trip you go, how to experience the park just a little bit more deeply. And to try to capture the iconic trails, it required a little bit of research, and University YouTube has been fantastic. So it just became kind of a thing. I'm a special needs father. I have a son that's on, autism spectrum. He lives with my wife and I. She's been so supportive of me going. So I make the most of my one national park trip a year. And so that's kind of how it started. But I have to say that it is a hobby of mine now, planning my annual trip. And, dissecting all the things there was to do in the North Cascades was a treat. It was just fun. And, it required on weekends, I'd just sit and watch YouTube videos when I had a moment and read up on trails. And then I'd write it down. I'd make notes about like, oh, this trail's a top 10 trail. Let's put it in there. And then, you start doing the logistical aspects, which is airport, car rental, grocery store, furbo cabin, or, cabin inside the park if there is one. And then, which are the best hikes to go on? How much time do you have? It's become a thing now. And this right now, this moment is just like another chapter. Here we are doing a podcast in Washington Pass in the North Cascades. Yeah. So, I see myself doing this until I can't do it anymore. Then I'll go to the bunny hikes, the little half miler, and, I'll play like a tourist. And I'll just kind of get out of the tourist bus and walk over there and see it and then walk back. But for now, we're doing hikes.
Yeah. And I think it probably was like same time last year, October, Grant sent me a video of you already starting the preliminary research on North Cascades. And I think you watched a video that I had watched and researched for like larches. Yeah. And I know you kind of touch on it, but one thing, especially with national parks, you don't get a lot of cell service. And your research, you go old school in the sense that a lot of your lists and recommendations are on a piece of paper. How does that list evolve over the course of research?
He's got the list.
Nice.
To your audience, these are my cheat sheets. Of all the trails, a little bit of lamination. And so, like on this trip, we didn't know there was snow coming. I know when we first bridged the subject with you, I kind of have a memory of Ivan going, okay, that's kind of late in the year, or maybe snow. And of course, we just booked the first cabin that was available, the Verbo in Marble Mountain. It just happened to be the second week. So we had to do the second week. We had everything planned for dry weather hikes. Now it dumped snow last few days. So here we are adapting. And so that list of hikes that I had, I had a nice backdrop. So if we don't do Heather Maple Pass today, which we won't, I can still hit the Skagit River Loop on the way home. Yeah. When you plan a national park trip, it is kind of fun just to have all the different hikes and then you see which ones you do.
And I think one thing that I love is before I came, I told Jordan, I need to download the questions because we won't have reception up there. And in situations like this, when you hit unexpected snow at trailheads, you can't necessarily access all trails and try to find other trails or loops that you can do. So the fact that you have the list comes in clutch in situations like this.
I've got the highest point of the hike, so I know how high up we're going when it comes to snow levels.
Oh, nice.
Which came in handy. And then, of course, where the trailhead altitude is, where does it start the elevation? And, all the things, the usual elevation gain and how many miles and how is it hard? Is it strenuous? Is it moderate? So those are all the things that I write down. So I know if I got to go to it, I can kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, forget all trails. We need John trails.
Well, as you can see by my demographic, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. So, this is the old school way, but it kind of works when you can't get cell coverage.
Right.
You said.
It comes in clutch.
Yeah.
Now, Grant, I know that you started your journey as a solo hiker and you've transitioned now to leading groups on hikes. How has it been doing solo hikes versus group hikes in your outdoor journey? And then you as well, John, because you've done some solo and group hikes as well.
Yeah, he actually attended the group hike that I hosted at Red Rock Canyon in August. So Kat and Mao, shout out to them. They also attended, and that was nice that I was able to let him into my world because he knows me as his son. And as we've transitioned in life where I've grown into an adult, my own person, we started to become friends, and he made friends with Mao because him and Mao plan for trips really similarly, which is pretty awesome.
He's more digital. She's high.
Yes.
I'm old school, so it was interesting to share notes.
Definitely. But going back to the solo gallivanting, that's where I started. For those of you who don't know, I got my start in late 2021 in October. Actually, the first place that I gallivanted to was Mount Laguna. I had just formed my YouTube channel, so that's where I started. It was during the pandemic, and there wasn't really much to do around them to go outside. And then I gradually went to TikTok, and then I went over to Instagram, and that's where I've been creating content. So I was coming off a rough breakup at the end of 2023, and I knew that in order to heal, I needed to meet people and turn myself on to new experiences. And so I went on a group hike with you in February of 2024. You had messaged me and asked if I wanted to come on a group hike with you because we had tried to meet in Arizona and Nevada and missed each other by a couple days both times. And so I was like, great, but I was a little nervous because I tend to get a little bit anxious around big crowds. But it was a collaboration hike with Just Trek and Outdoor Adventure Plus. And they were so friendly and everyone was having so much fun. It really left a good impression on me. And so I went to their next event for Outdoor Adventure Plus, and the rest is history. So now I have a balance where I still go out my solo gallivants, but then I'll host events. Like last weekend, I hosted a camping event at my local campground, Burt Rancheria Campground on Mount Laguna. So Kat and Mao were there. And then Steph and Annie were also there, and it was awesome. We cooked the first night, had a campfire, and then we gallivanted around the PCH, and then we came back, cooked breakfast, and it was awesome. So it's really been a full circle moment where I got my start solo, but then I've kind of branched out and seeing the joy of other people, turning them on to my world. It's just awesome. So I'm trying to put Mount Laguna on the map right now. So that's what you alluded to earlier. And it's been great.
Yeah, shout out to Jonathan and Justin for that incredible experience.
They're great mentors to both of us.
Yeah. So I think I've said it in the past, like literally after we left the brewery, I started dialing in on how to create Yakima Valley Trekkers. So like without them, this wouldn't be possible.
Absolutely. Shout out to Justin and Jonathan.
You know, you guys have been to so many wonderful national parks. Rainier twice, Glacier, Tetons. You've done the Zion Narrows, North Rim of the Grand Canyon. I know this is a hard question, but like, what are some standout moments from these trips?
You know, what really stands out to me was Dawson Pass at Glacier National Park. That was our first foray. It was like 2,400 foot elevation gain, you know, about, I want to say 9-10 miles round trip. And that was the first trip where it was like, we got to the pass and it was just spectacular. And it was like, oh my God, this is it. This is my, you know, heaven on earth moment. And I was hooked at that point. So every trip that we plan, I try to figure out, well, what's the most spectacular hike going to be? And you don't always know. Because of my list, I just come up with a number of them. And then I say, okay, may the best hike win. And so I'm always looking for that iconic hike. It's got to have a mixture of multiple things. One of it is the destination has to be inspirational, but the trek up and down has to be full of things from, you know, rock outcroppings, granite outcroppings, hikes through forests, streams, creeks, lakes, foliage. And so you pick the hikes and then you put all the characteristics of each hike. And if it's got about a half a dozen characteristics, then you know it's going to be a good hike. And then, you know, of course, watching YouTube videos, you learn through other people. Speaking of learning, because this social media thing is kind of new to me. But last year, I have to tell you, at Rainier, when I first met you, Ivan, I watched you interview Grant, who, you know, I knew about this world that Grant was in, but I didn't really know much. It was my first real exposure to what Grant does. And it was through your lens, your podcast. And I was watching this going, what a great idea to turn people on. But that's really what you both do. But you turn people on to nature. And I can't think of a better way to connect with people than that. And for me, I always had a love of nature, but maybe there's some that haven't had the experience as me and they're new to nature. You know, like Mal and Kat, let's say, you know, they were maybe a little bit later in life. They just became exposed to it. And now look at them, you know, what they do. So I see that for all different types. It's inspirational. It really is. It's fun to watch.
I think for me, and I think you too, Grant, it's just to inspire the people to get out, regardless of what that looks like. If it's just a short loop trail, if it's just a walk in a park, just to get out and enjoy. Because even this, like the hike to where we're at now was what, 4 minutes?
Yeah. Big payoff.
Yeah. Hardly any elevation gain. But for you, Grant, is there a standout moment for your national park trips?
I would say 2016, we had done that trip to Utah and then Arizona, and we had just had my grandmother, his mother, be called home. And so we were still mourning from that. And we had my uncle with us, his brother. And before the North Rim Lodge burned down this summer, we did get a chance to go, and we had champagne and we just honored her and we talked about the memories that we shared with her, just the three of us. And that was probably one of the more standout moments for us because it basically reminded us of why we do these trips, which is to strengthen our bond as a family. And if our uncle, your brother, can't come with us, then it's just you and I. And these moments, they come and go before we know it. I mean, it's already been, you know, this is our 13th time. I mean, time just flies. When I started this, I was going into my senior year. We were playing a basketball tournament. I was on varsity and it was up in Lake Tahoe. And now I'm an adult, 33, in a different place in life. So these moments, they go fast. But you and I, we've created a lot of wonderful lasting memories together. So this is just what it's about, is just creating these lasting memories while we can.
And I think one of the lasting memories that at least caught my attention from your social media is, I think it was the Grand Tetons. You guys did an epic 16-hour road trip in order to reach it.
Yeah, we're very hesitant to fly at that time because this is during the pandemic, the height of it. And Dad was talking about wearing hazmat suits in the airport. We did not want to do that. So we just made the drive, and I got to document a lot of it. And we got this drive through northern Utah, and then we got to see the farmlands of Wyoming. And then we got into Jackson Hole at night, drove through Moose, Wyoming, which wasn't much at all, but a post office. And that ended up being a great trip. We hiked to Taggart Lake, which is a nice bang for your buck hike just outside the park. And then we went to Jenny Lake and we took a boat over there, went to Cascade Canyon. And then we ended up hiking to Amphitheater Lake, which really did look like an amphitheater with all the rock spires. It resembled an amphitheater. And then we hiked to Surprise Lake, which was right there. So I just love how all these memories are starting to flow back. But I remember we had a cabin right on the water. And I remember just looking at the Grand Tetons and just crying because they're so breathtaking. They just jut out, and it just makes for such a dramatic view of the landscape. So that was our second time gallivanting to Grand Teton. That was definitely one of the more fulfilling trips just because of the circumstances. There's a lot of uncertainty with COVID, but instead of living in fear and staying home, we decided to just say, screw it. We're going to go live life to the fullest, and it was a great trip.
And I imagine each trip has its own set of challenges and rewards. Looking back at the history of the father-son trips, is there any trails or hikes that were more challenging than expected or more rewarding than you initially expected from the research that you guys have done?
I think Pitamakan, when we went to Glacier, that was a trip. We got to the pass and it was very windy, and we were with both of his brothers at the time. They came, so he has a brother, Bob, who's in Washington, D.C., and he flew out. We get to the pass and there's a nice lake under, and I was feeling myself. I had a cowboy hat. I was getting into my Montana mode, and I asked Dad to take a picture, and then the cowboy hat just flew down into the canyon. And so he filmed me doing the walk of shame down into the canyon to retrieve my hat. And we have that on video. And I had the marmot. I was sitting there, and the marmot was trying to like eat my shoe, trying to eat my selfie stick. But it really was a whole other world, because as soon as you round the corner to the pass, the wind was there, and then we had a whole new view, and there was nobody there. So just having that dramatic view, sharing it with his brothers, it was epic for sure.
You know, it's funny, but it was yesterday. I mean, I always go by like, well, it just keeps getting better. But this one really reached me yesterday, affected me yesterday, because it was a simple half-day hike. You know, we had just flown into SeaTac Airport, and by the time you get logistics and get to the trail, it's late afternoon. But on a Baker Lake Trail on the northeast end, the far end, you got to take a dirt road to get there. It was an autumn hike that was second to none. I mean, it was, you know, it had rained and all the leaves were turning gold, but then all the ferns, the moss, because, you know, this is a rainforest. This is the interesting thing about the North Cascades. On the western edge, it's like a rainforest combined with an alpine setting. We're on the east side now, and it's more alpine. So there we were, just hiking along the Baker Lake in this magical trail that just had foliage and old growth and huge trees. And, you know, I'm there with my son, and I'm thinking, okay, the torch has kind of been passed. He's looking out for me now. Be careful, Dad, there's a slippery spot right there. Be careful that you don't want to fall, you know. And I'm thinking, this is what you do as a parent. You teach them, and then you hope that they learn, and then your job is done, right? Well, it's been through our national park experiences that I've learned more about you, Grant, and I got a chance to see you blossom as a young boy. Kind of a knucklehead at times, didn't have all the answers yet.
Thought I did.
Thought he did. But you see that evolution, and it's very gratifying. And I think back to when, you know, they were young, and I turned them on to, you know, the hiking and all that. I thought, what a great reward that has been. Now it's come full circle. But I would say yesterday's trail, we took a selfie, and we were both just beaming. My wife, I talked to last night, she's at home holding down the fort with Spencer, Mary. But she said, John, I saw the picture, and you both radiated joy. That's what this does.
Yeah.
You know, that sticks in my mind.
Yeah, the pictures that you were able to share, Grant, on your social, I've never seen colors like that in Washington. So definitely pin that Baker Lake Trail on my Google Maps for next year. Now, Grant, your dad learned a lot about you through these trips. What have you learned about your dad doing these father-son trips?
Preparation is key. He got me a John Wooden book when I was younger, and he said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so I see how he plans for these trips. So he'll watch YouTube videos, planning his notepad, and, I was like, oh, yeah, you dinosaur, you're doing it. I used to razz him for it, but as I've gotten older, I've began to really appreciate and understand the value of preparing, because curveballs can happen. Like with this trip, we didn't plan for the snow, but we made the best of it. So we got most of our gear, and we had plan A's, B's, and C's, and it's worked out. So I think kind of what he was speaking to about the evolution, I think I've seen the evolution in myself, and I've began to appreciate how he prepares for trips, because you need to prepare for all possible elements, like the snow here, but we're all here, and we're all doing this interview, and it's all worked out. So I think I've appreciated his style. I think there's a place for it, and yeah, I've just, my appreciation has grown over time.
I'm going to have to take a page literally out of your book and start writing down some things when I go into these places, because, yeah, if you don't have reception, your backup list, and you can use the community, of course, but to actually know the elevation, the mileage, all that is crucial out here in the backcountry. I'm curious if folks that are listening want to do and start this tradition of either father-son trip, father-daughter, mother-son, any family-style trip, what advice would you give those families that are looking to explore and enjoy the outdoors together?
Baby steps, go a local trip first, kind of practice. Because if you're bringing your kids, there's a dynamic there that isn't there with two adults. And planning has to be paramount in terms of where are you staying, what's the weather going to be, what are the trails like, are they appropriate for the kids, But once you start, and I would say to anybody, just go do one. You'll get hooked. And then you can kind of scale it up like we've done, If you're looking to teach your kids values and take responsibility and to plan, there's not a greater way to teach. And it's more fun than just saying, did you do your homework tonight? So now I can say, well, did you get the information that we needed on this? And Grant is a researcher at heart. He'll research certain things that he has access to that he'll find out that add to our trip. We need to know information, like were chains required to come up here to meet you today, and you were feeding us information that was very useful. Well, he just takes his iPhone out and like, oh yeah, we can go to, Concrete and pick up some chains there,
Yeah.
And so we didn't have our chains for our tires. But if you start them at a young age, it's so easy. They'll get hooked. And even my daughter, Hannah, Grant's sister, who is, a minute younger than he is, now she wants to go on these trips, and she sees how much fun we have. So, and they're 34 now.
33.
So, you're 34. No, you're 33. You're right. Oh shit. Okay. But now she sees the joy. She wants to be a part of it. I'm just thrilled. I want to turn my daughter Hannah onto this now. So it's just a journey that you can go on with your family that has so many rewards.
If I may add to that, it is okay to make mistakes. Over the course of our 13 years, we have made plenty. And by now, we're pretty well-oiled machine. We know how to prepare, and our styles complement each other. I'm more tech-based. He's more old-fashioned. So they complement each other well. But for all the parents with kids, mistakes will be made, and that's okay. Because over time, you learn what works, what doesn't, the things you need, the things you don't need. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. You don't know until you try.
And I know you guys are only at day 2 of North Cascades National Park, but we're in the middle of October recording this. What's on the horizon for father-son trips in 2026?
Well, we have talked about this being a repeat trip. We've talked about Yosemite for a while, taking a family vacation there, because as Dad alluded to earlier, we would take family vacations. Like we went to the Rocky Mountains in winter of 2014, and the first night we were there, it got to negative 27-degree wind chill at negative 17, and my sister was like yelling, and it was hilarious. It was really cold, but it's things like that where we want to jumpstart that again. So we've talked about Yosemite next March being a possibility, but also, as I said, North Cascades being a repeat trip.
And maybe even Banff and Jasper, that's on the horizon. horizons. That's the fun part of this is now you can kind of pick. There's so many national parks. So you get to pick the national park and then you just kind of focus in. And so, the sky's the limit is kind of how I feel right now. It's like we can do almost anything. What do you want to do?
Right.
What do you want to see? And I had heard about North Cascades for the longest time, but it always seemed so inaccessible, so remote. And boy, there's no places, there's no lodges really inside the park unless you want to take a ferry boat to the one that is. So, how do you make that happen? Well, thank God for Vrbo and Airbnb. So now you have lodging when there isn't lodging. And you have, of course, the cluster of iconic trails just for you to discover. And so, this is the fun part is that it's almost a gift to give to your children. For me, it's just the joy of my life after my wife and children and family is this national parks. It's, I'm having a love affair. And so to hand that off to your kids, and clearly gallivanting with Grant over here has turned into a lifestyle, and it's a source of joy. And so that's the part I get excited about. So next year's trip might be back here. I'll tell you in a few days.
All right. I love it. Now, that was it for the regular questions. The last questions are questions we like to ask all our guests. Grant, let us know if any of these have changed for you, but I'm really interested in hearing John's take on some of these. But when it comes to either summit routines or end of the hike routines, a lot of us have, a moment of zen at a summit. Maybe it's packing a favorite snack or meal or enjoying a good meal afterwards. Is there a regular summit routine or end of the hike routine that either of you do when you make it back out or when you reach your destination?
I'm going to give him his flowers real quick. For those of you that don't know, I was episode 2 of his podcast, and he's on season 12, and he's doing an amazing job. So when he was asking that question, I was just kind of thinking of how the questions have changed over time. And yeah, I just want to give you your flowers, man. Your podcast has come a long way, and it's an honor to be a repeat guest. So with that being said, content creation, I've become more mindful of it. So I'll do that. I got a feeling we're going to be doing that a lot on this trip. So content creation, I've gone more into meditation over time, and that's been a beneficial practice to my life. So I'll do meditational practices, and then him and I will share a snack. I enjoy Uncrustables. He enjoys beef jerky, nut clusters. So that's ours. We'll share snacks, and I'll go off for a little bit and do my own meditational practices. I think I've become more mindful because I used to be like, okay, get there. All right, we're there. All right, we got to go back. But I've appreciated taking in the moment a lot more and appreciating not just the journey, but also the destination itself.
When I plan a trip, I always look for destination hikes first, which a lot of times means we're going up to a pass. So it's kind of evolved, but here's the trick now. Got to start early, get a jump on it. You always have parking and there's not as many people on the trail. So try to get there at dawn and then enjoy the hike to the destination. Then you get to the destination and then you hang at the destination for several hours, like what you did. We went to Washington Pass, which is just, 30 feet that way, but then we just go down a little bit and now we have a little spot to ourselves, right? So this is an example. So now we're just hanging here, just talking about things we love. And then, after 3 hours or so, then you got to pack back up. You've had your beef jerky and your food and your hydration. Grant sometimes would go for a swim at the local lake up there. And then we come back down and it's the same drill. As you come back down, you just enjoy the experience on the way down. And then you get to the trailhead a little bit before sunset. And then you drive to your local restaurant and have a great meal, whether it's just in the car through a drive-through window or a sit-down restaurant. And then you talk about the day. You get back to the cabin and you talk about that was great, that was awesome. And then what are we doing tomorrow? And so it's just a process. He always
talks about what we're going to do tomorrow immediately after we get back.
I do like certainty, and it's part of planning. You got to be thinking, it's like playing chess. You got to be thinking a few moves ahead. So you have that time to react if you're thinking, oh, shoot, there's snow. Oh, we're going to hook up with Ivan tomorrow, but there's snow at the pass. It dumped last night. What do? We got to find chains. So it's kind of it's an all-day process, but it beats working.
Yeah. It sure does. Now, John, one thing we like to ask is when it comes to people's pack list, is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials? And not necessarily like luxury as far as like cost, but something that brings you comfort and joy that you might not necessarily need on a trail, but that you enjoy bringing.
Yeah, interesting question. I like to bring all the right equipment. And every year I go, I think about new equipment. Obviously, this was the first snow-laden hike that we've done. So, I had to get the rain pants, had to get the heavy down jacket, had to get the micro spikes, right? All those things we didn't have. So I use every trip as a way to plan. But that's the joy that you're asking about, is when you find something that just makes it easier to experience nature. That's something I really enjoy. So it's a little bit of technology. It's a little bit of common sense. And then the other part is to just, when I get to that destination, is to really just put away the iPhone and just think about your life. Just ponder it. And that to me is the joy. But that's why I go on these trips. A primary reason is to recharge my batteries. And when you take that reflection opportunity at this amazing place, you start thinking about what's important. What do you want to do? What can you do to make other people's lives around you better? You just get inspired, right? And like you both inspire people to experience the outdoors. That's an example. So that's kind of my little treat when I get there.
I like that. Grant, has yours changed in the last couple months?
It has, because thanks to your mentorship and guidance, I got the inspiration to start my own podcast, the Grateful Galavanters podcast. And it had been a blog for a while. You were number 7, I think, the blog submission. And I got the inspiration from not just Ivan, but Justin for Just Trek to launch it. So now I bring a selfie stick, but I also bring my mic, and I use these opportunities to do interviews and conduct them at places that have beautiful views like this. You're going to be a guest for the podcast version. But yeah, I think it has, because I want to be able to capitalize on these opportunities. And I also want to be able to take people to these places and broadcast the interview so that other people can become aware of these places. So I think it's changed from me not just arriving and appreciating it, but also taking the opportunity to interview fascinating people who are well-traveled, who have stories to tell, and then just opening up their eyes to these places. So that's how my trips have changed over time to these places.
Yeah, shout out your selfie stick, because it's playing clutch right now.
It's doing a great job. Yep.
You're here in the snow, but you guys are based out of SoCal. You still got plenty of hiking left for the remainder of the year. Any exciting trips or hikes that either of you have on the horizon for the last 2.5 months?
I do. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Arizona with Britt, and we got a lot of stuff on the docket. We're planning to go to Payson, the mountains of Arizona, perhaps Prescott, Flagstaff, and we're also going to make our way east to Petrified Forest National Park, the Painted Desert, and then we're going to be making our way up to Page. We're going to take a tour in Antelope Canyon, so we got a lot of stuff planned for that trip. And then December, I'm planning to return to Arizona as well. To extend it into the new year a little bit, going to be traveling to Provo, Utah, and gallivanting in the winter there, because driving through the Alpine Loop's magical at this time of year with all the aspens, but there's a sense of mystique with snow draped from the trees, much like here. It doesn't have the dramatic rock spires of here, but there's still a lot of beauty over in that part of Utah. So yeah, it was kind of slow around the summertime because I was living up in Mount Laguna and I was gallivanting around that part of the world, but my trips are really starting to take off with this one, and then going to be gallivanting around Arizona a lot more often. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting trips coming up.
Every time I come back from a national park, I can only go once a year as my wife watches our son. I get inspired to go local. So Orange County has some lovely hikes. So I want to take my son Spencer. He's special needs. He loves hiking. He had a medical situation arise, so he hasn't been able to hike, but we're starting to see that he's ready maybe for more local hikes. So we're going to go to the local Santa Ana Mountains. And yes, it's a drop off from here, but you still get nature. You still get the feeling. Maybe you're not quite as awestruck, but it's what you make of it too. So when you're feeling nature and you're feeling inspired by it, whether it's just a local place with Sycamore Grove, with a little babbling creek right under it, that's kind of it. That's enough. And so I'm kind of inspired to take Spencer on more local hikes. And then next summer, we'll see where we go for the big one.
I love that. Well, that was it, guys, for the regular questions. This last section of the podcast is the this or that questions. Grant, we got some new ones this season, so
I'm excited to hear them.
There'll be some new ones for you from the Humphreys Peak episode, but John, these are all brand new to you. The first one is, when it comes to hiking seasons, if you had to choose, would you choose summer or fall?
I do want to give a quick shout out to the Humphreys homies because you did bring it up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so Ivan is one of them. Kelly, AZ Outdoorsy Duo, Becca, I.am.Becca, and then Britt, Wonders with Britt. We had a wonderful trip, and that was in June. And even though there was 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts at the summit, it was still a pretty day. It was sunny. We could see Sunset Craters Volcano National Monument. We could see the distance in Utah, Navajo Mountain. We could see the north rim of the Grand Canyon. So that's a great time of year to go, is the summer. But as I was alluding to earlier, this is our first fall hike, and we're really excited to see the golden larches at this time of year. But the snow did throw us a curveball, so summer is probably the best time, but it really does depend on where you go to. Like up at the higher elevations, it's not going to be as hot, but then places like the Painted Desert and Page, Arizona, it's going to be very hot there. Like I tried to go to Page when we went to Flagstaff in June, but it was 97, so I decided against it. But now Britt and I are going to go, and it's going to be probably in the 70s. So it really does depend on where you go to, because the temperatures are going to vary depending on your elevation. But I'd say just because you and I, for our Galavants, we're so familiar with summer, I would say summer.
Before this trip, I would have said summer. We did Rainier one year, which was late June, which kind of felt like spring. You know, the wildflowers were just starting to bloom. So I kind of want to revisit spring. You know, in Yosemite, late May is a good time before the crowds, and the rivers and the creeks are just full. The waterfalls are just amazingly full. So, you know, Yosemite in the spring, but North Cascades in the fall ain't bad. So I don't know. You know, I think that's a great question. It's very thought-provoking. I almost want to say the three. You know, it just depends on the park. And so in my research, I'll figure out what park is best. If I have my eye on a park, I'll figure out when's the best time to visit. What checks the most boxes for that time of year. Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting. Hell, I think all three.
Now, this next one's another hard one because you guys have seen both at many of your Galavants, but if you had to choose, summits or waterfalls?
Summits, because you have to earn it. You have to get up to the pass, you know, or most of the time it's passes. We don't summit many peaks, but it's the earning of it. And it's hard, and it's a bit of a schlep, a slog half the time. But boy, when you get up there, it's just so beautiful that you just go, okay, yeah, this was worth the price of admission. And then you don't want to come down. So I would say summits.
I think Dad's spot on with his assessment of summits and waterfalls, but I will say about waterfalls, they can transform a park. Like Yosemite, I was going to go twice in August and September, but I canceled both times because the waterfalls were dry. It's just not the same park when the waterfalls are dry. But when the waterfalls are flowing, I'd say it's a top 5 park. So waterfalls make a park more beautiful. Like last summer, we went to Mount Rainier and we got to see Narada Falls. We got to see Comet Falls. Yeah, that was an amazing one. So waterfalls are amazing for sure, but just going off what you said about the peaks, earning it, and then just being able to look out and see so much stuff. Like I was saying about Humphreys earlier, you know, we got to see multiple states. So I would go with summits.
Now, in order to reach these summits, would you choose the trail with switchbacks or would you rather just go straight up?
My answer's changing. So before I said straight up, but I think switchbacks are a lot easier, especially at this time of year with the snow. It would be hard to go straight up. So I think switchbacks are the safer option. And I guess he's rubbing off on me. It's funny, as I'm getting older, I'm becoming more like the parent. So he's becoming more the risk taker. And I'll be like, Dad, no, watch out. You're going too fast. You're going to fall. And oh, I think we should take this trail. So he's rubbing off on me in a lot of ways. I think switchbacks are the safer route as opposed to straight up. And I just don't love getting hikes out of the way anymore. I like taking them in and appreciating them for what they are. So I would say switchbacks.
Switchbacks means you can smell the roses on the way. You know, we've done some hikes with serious elevation gain, and it just, the hike up isn't quite as enjoyable as you're heaving and your legs are burning, you know. So switchbacks, you just kind of go to one switchback, you pause, you look around, then you go up the next switchback, pause, look around. So it's more incremental, so you can enjoy the view on the way up.
And I got a little bit of preview of the answer to this next one, and one of them did surprise me from you, Grant. But if you had to choose trek poles or freehand on a hike?
Yeah, I'll go first with that one. So Kelly noticed that I didn't have trekking poles on the Humphreys hike, and my meniscus tends to bother me on the way down. So she graciously allowed me to use one of her poles, and it made a huge difference. And so at 33 years young, I have decided to embrace the hiking poles, and I took them to get here today, and I didn't fall in the snow, and I haven't fallen yet. So yeah, yikes, I'm really becoming more of a parent with my mentality. Gotta be safer with the hiking poles. So yes, I'm also changing my answer for this one. I would say hiking poles, and it's not always that way. It just really depends on the conditions of the trail. But yeah, I'm embracing hiking poles more and more. So shout out to Kelly. Thank you for giving me your hiking poles. Really much appreciated.
I think you were the one that called them granny sticks way back when. You know, it's a little bit of a taboo there, you know, as you transition to your latter years. But no, walking sticks are the key. You know, you don't fall. You know, you can probe snow. You can slippery rocks. You can kind of hit them first. Make sure the log doesn't turn. So you do a face plant in a creek like I did.
Last summer at Mount Rainier.
At Mount Rainier. 30 minutes into our first hike, I did a face plant in a creek. My Ray-Bans were gone forever. And, you know, it's like, I didn't have time to get my walking sticks out of the car. Well, it's just a short hike, So yes, walking sticks.
This next one I'm curious because I see the list down below. When it comes to choosing your trails, if you had to choose, would you go loop trails or out and back trails?
Great question. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. So the short answer 2 days ago would have been loop trails because it's just a continuous thing. There's no duplication, right? So, you know, on some level that makes sense. But the out and backs, which we did yesterday to Baker Lake, is you see it one way, and then sometimes you have the sun behind you, so you see the light, you see the similar views. They're the same views, but a different perspective. So I almost want to say it doesn't matter. I'll do both, you know. And to me, the out and back, the walking becomes the journey. There is no destination usually with an out and back, although sometimes there is, so you'd stop and enjoy the destination. But sometimes if it's just a quick hike, like yesterday, it's about a 5-mile hike, 3 hours. It was just an interactive, immersive hike of just walking through this amazing, you know, fall forest of just amazing color. So that became like a great little out and back trail.
For me, because I've started content creating, not just for myself and my solo Galavants, but also collaborating with other content creators and then content creating for my podcast, I like doing out and back because I get to get all my content creation out of the way there. And then on the way back, I can put away my phone and my selfie stick and just be able to take everything in.
And I know North Cascade is going to throw both of these at you, but if you had to choose between these two type of trail hazards, would you do a muddy trail or a rocky trail?
I would say a rocky trail. I don't love mud. I don't love getting my boots dirty and then getting the car dirty by extension. Rocks are easy to get out. You just take off your shoes, get the gravel out. Mud just makes things a lot more problemsome.
I like certainty in my life, so rocks offer certainty. You know where you can step and it's all going to be good. You just have to watch out for the rocks to step around them or step on them. But yeah, I would say rocky.
And these next two are our hardest ones, and you guys get them in spectacular fashion there in Southern California. But if you had to choose between these two, sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
I would say sunrise, and I wouldn't have always said that, but morning light is just unlike any other light of the day. You can say the same about afternoon light, but morning light is usually less people on the trail. You hear the sounds of morning, you hear the animals, the birds, and the light filtering through the trees, because most hikes start through a forest. And to have those streams of light come through as you walk through, it feels enchanting. It really does. So yeah, I'm big on early morning hikes now. Just as the sun's coming up, you're at the trailhead ready to start.
Yeah, so living up in Mount Laguna now, most mornings I'm able to walk out my door, go on the PCT, and then wait for the sun to rise from Anza Borrega to the east. I'm able to witness it. And a couple mornings ago, I was there, and the ravens were in the air, swooping down. You know, couples, they'll, go flip midair and be playful with each other. And it was really neat to watch them come out to play. But not just that, but my answer is similar to last time, where you're able to get out on the trail, and that gives you a jump on your day. You have energy, and then you're able to do what you need to do. So I would say sunrise hikes are a great way not just to get solitude, but also to get your jump on your day.
And you got a little bit of a taste yesterday, but I'm wondering if this is going to skew your answer when it comes to picking wildflowers, spring wildflowers, or fall colors.
We are growing a greater appreciation for fall colors. Like last year, I got to experience it driving the Alpine Loop Road in northern Utah. I got to drive among the aspens. I cried because it was so dramatic. The gold was so dramatic, and I was so grateful to go there. So I do love fall colors, but there's just something about wildflowers that really change the landscape. Like Anza Borrega, if there's a lot of rain during the winter, then you have the landscape turn from arid dirt to filled with verbena and sunflowers and all kinds of seas of yellow and white and purple. It just completely changes the landscape. And fall colors do that too, but we just don't get really as much dramatic fall colors in SoCal as we do with the spring wildflowers. And then you have the Antelope Valley poppy fields that are very popular, and they just turn the landscape to orange. So I would say because of where we are in respect to the world, like up here you have dramatic fall colors with Larch Madness, but down in SoCal we have places where the entire landscape gets changed by the blooming wildflowers.
Well, you're right. I'm totally biased now. The answer 2 days ago would have been, wildflowers. And we did Glacier, where the, late spring, early summer version of Glacier had some amazing wildflowers.
Wonderland Trail, Mount Rainier.
Yeah, Wonderland Trail, Mount Rainier was, oh my God, yes. So, that's pretty special. More parks have wildflower blooms than have fall colors. So it's a unique and little shout out to Washington. New England gets all the credit for these amazing fall colors. I've got come on, no one's talking about Washington. So, it depends on the park. I mean, obviously you don't have to choose, but there will be, another year coming where I'll choose spring or late spring, and then there may be another park or this park I'll come back in the fall. Yeah. So, yeah, both.
Now, the last one is when it comes to hydration, something that we both learned on Humphrey's Homies was electrolyte tablets. I've always been a powdered guy. But when it comes to hydration, John, when you do have to replenish your electrolytes, do you do powdered drinks, Gatorades, Powerades, or tablets?
Great question, Ivan. None. But now I'm thinking, yes, I should be doing something. So this is an example of every trip we learn something. Yes, I mean, I drink water. I try to stay hydrated, but, electrolytes are pretty important. So, yeah, I would say, I'm going to go to electrolytes in the future.
Well, he's leaving a little bit out is that he's a big coffee drinker, so he has to have his share of coffee. So coffee is definitely there on the trails, but yeah, like him, just water. We haven't historically brought electrolytes, but I've also had friends in the community who live by electrolytes and they've turned me on to it. So for this trip, it didn't enter our minds, but that's the beauty of taking these trips is that there's always something that we can learn. There's always new things that we can bring. Experience is the best teacher. So it looks like we may have to add electrolytes to our list, but yeah, we're just water and with him coffee.
Well, that was it, guys, for the this or that questions. Grant, I don't know if you realize this. It's been probably exactly 3 years since we recorded.
October 22, yeah.
Yep. Your first episode on the podcast. And thank you so much for making it out here. And I'm glad you're able to see North Cascades National Park. And I'm glad you're able to bring your dad to see, what I think is probably my favorite park in Washington State. I really appreciate all the support that you've given, not just me, but the community. Shout out to Jonathan for Outdoor Adventure Plus, Justin from Just Trek. That's where we first met. And that's where we improved our outdoor experience by leading group hikes this year. So shout out to them. Shout out to Becca, Kelly, Britt for having us visit Arizona and have such a remarkable trip summiting Humphreys Peak. And I know it's not going to be the last summit we do.
No, because we have Whitney planned for next summer.
Whitney Homies 2026.
Yeah, that's right.
Lock in.
Yep.
Well, it has been awesome speaking with both of you. It's been awesome learning more about you, John. It's always a pleasure having you on the podcast, Grant. For folks that want to follow your journey with not just your regular page, but also your podcast, where can they find you on social media and online?
So yeah, my Instagram handle is gallivanting.with.grant, and that's GALLIVANT, because gallivanting has multiple spellings. So that's my Instagram. I have a YouTube with the same name where I'll publish the videos to my podcast episodes and sometimes little short clips of my gallivants. So I have those two platforms, Instagram and YouTube. And then I have a website, which is in my bio under my link tree. And that's where you can find me. It's Instagram, YouTube, and then I have my link tree with my personal website.
We'll be sure to put those in the episode show notes so people can check it out. Guys, it has been awesome speaking with you in such a remarkable place. And I can't wait to see what the rest of your trip has to offer in the North Cascades. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers, everybody.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Grant and John. We extend a heartfelt thanks to them for joining us on the podcast. Be sure to follow them on Instagram at gallivanting.with.grant and at journey.with.john22, and by checking out the episode show notes. This episode of Hikes and Mics was produced by Jordan Smith. Be sure to follow her adventures on Instagram at jordan.journeys. New episodes will drop every Monday throughout the fall hiking season, with occasional Friday bonus episodes sprinkled in. To make sure you never miss a moment of these inspiring trail stories, hit the follow or subscribe button. Your support truly keeps this community growing. Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. That's where you'll find behind-the-scenes episode visuals, my own hiking adventures, and plenty more to keep the fall inspiration flowing. As we wrap up today's journey, remember, the trails may be covered in leaves, but the spirit of adventure is wide open. So tread those happy trails, breathe in that crisp autumn air, and keep exploring. Until next time, my fellow hikers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, ursaminooroutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.